Kanye West. Do I need to say anything else about this man? Kanye West is one of the most inspirational music artists of all time, forever making an impact on the hip-hop scene, while also doing everything in his power to ruin his reputation, making it even harder to defend this man. Like me. However, we're not going to get into that, but instead, we'll be talking about lost media relating to Kanye West. From scrapped albums throughout Kanye's career, to TV shows that were never greenlit, and even a short film created by him, we will be talking about almost all of them. But we can't start this video without first talking about the Kanye West albums that he scrapped. His unreleased albums are pretty well known in the fanbase because of how many there are and why they were cancelled. However, the only exceptions I would add is that they can't be collab albums, only solo albums made by Kanye West. Okay, let's get into the video. Good ass job. Before Kanye released his first debut album, The College Dropout, he revealed in an interview in 2003 that he already planned 4 albums: The College Dropout, Late Registration, Graduation, and finally, Good Ass Job. I'm sure you can guess which one was never released. Kanye would have released Late Registration and Graduation. However, in 2008, just 2 months after releasing Graduation, his mother, DONDA West, would sadly pass away due to heart failure and complications after cosmetic surgery. This death would put Kanye in a depressive state, putting a pause on Good Ass Job completely. Around this time, after her death, Kanye would also end his relationship with his fiancée at the time, Alexis Fiverr, worsening his depression. This would cause Kanye to take a completely different path in music and created the album known as 808s and Heartbreak. After releasing this album, Kanye would continue work on Good Ass Job until another unfortunate incident occurred. On September 13, 2009, the MTV Video Music Awards was being presented at Radio City Music Hall in New York City. During this, the award for the best female video would be awarded to Taylor Swift. While Taylor Swift was giving her speech, a drunk Kanye West would walk up on stage and interrupt her, claiming that Beyonce's Single Ladies video should have won, before walking off stage, leaving everyone bewildered.
Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time. One of the best videos of all time.
After this, Kanye would be kicked out of the show, and the internet would go crazy about this. Popular figures like Katy Perry, Pink, Michael Jackson's father, Joe Jackson, Beyonce, and even prominent political figures like Barack Obama, Jimmy Carter, and Donald Trump all spoke out against Kanye and his act. Again, Kanye would escape the spotlight for a little while before moving to Honolulu, Hawaii to create his now 5th studio album titled My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Most of the tracks on this album were recorded during Good Ass Job, seen in 2 different early track lists for the album. As of now, there's 20 confirmed songs that could have possibly been on Good Ass Job, with some of the songs leaking fully in its entirety like Ain't No Tellin', Hype Me Up, Eyes Closed, Hard Horn Nightmare, and most notably, Mama's Boyfriend. However, despite a collection of beats made for the album being leaked, the full album is still lost. Winter, Spring, Summer, Fall. This one is pretty obscure and forgotten. The only mention of this album possibly existing is an interview back in 2009 with French magazine Elle, saying, "In fact, my next album will be called Winter, Spring, Summer, Fall, and it will have 12 songs and 4 seasons, with 3 songs for each season." It's unknown if the album was created before or after Good Ass Job, and is even speculated that Kanye made up the album. Thank God for Drugs. On June 18, 2013, Kanye released his most experimental rap album titled Yeezus, ranging a genre from industrial music to electro music to Chicago drill, and with features from Kid Cudi, Chief Keef, Frank Ocean, and more. However, before Yeezus, there was Thank God for Drugs. Thank God for Drugs was worked on between 2012 but accelerated in 2013 when a bunch of producers were brought into the project, causing more leaks to the album. Supposedly, there was 3.5 hours of content that was made for the album, but was heavily shortened by legendary record producer Rick Rubin. The album cover for the project was created by George Kondo, the same person who did the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy cover, showing similarities between this cover and the final cover for Yeezus. It was also revealed in concept art for the CD, it would have included a total of 12 tracks. I can't find any information on what exactly happened to this project or when it changed to Yeezus instead, but in 2025, a massive Yeezus leak would occur, revealing a ton of songs recorded during this era. However, it's unknown what order they go in or what songs were part of the album, but you can find early versions of Yeezus songs, including some reference tracks, beats, demos, and more. Yeezus 2. Believe it or not, this album would have many changes throughout the years, eventually turning into The Life of Pablo. After Kanye released Yeezus in 2013, Kanye began work on a sequel for the album with different titles like Yeezus 2, Lost Yeezus, and some others. This album was meant to include the cut songs that never made it to Yeezus with newly recorded songs, along with huge help from a former Beatles member named Paul McCartney, and the album would have supposedly been 8 tracks long. Kanye announced that he was halfway done with the album and should be expected to release in summer 2014. However, the time came and no album was released, and the project was cancelled at some point by Kanye. In 2017, fans discovered a playlist created by Sci-Hi the Prince, a frequent collaborator for Kanye, called YPM, which supposedly included abbreviated track names, matching with some known songs from Yeezus 2, and some speculate that YPM means Yeezus Paul McCartney. 2 different early versions of Yeezus 2 will be leaked in 2023, and the YPM playlist will be leaked entirely in 2024 from a group buy. Yeezus 2 at some point would eventually evolve into another album titled So Help Me God. So Help Me God was worked on between 2014 to 2015 after Kanye scrapped Yeezus 2. 3 singles for the project would be released titled 4 or 5 Seconds, All Day, and Only One. And Kanye would preview an early version of a song at a fashion show titled Wolves, which he said would be the opener for the album. On February 20th, Kanye revealed that the album was 80% finished and described the album as, quote, cookout music that just feels good. A couple days later, on February 28th, Kanye would reveal the album cover for the project, showing a monastic symbol from the 13th century for the Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus. However, in May 2015, Kanye announced that the album name would be changed to Swish. According to track lists from 2014 and 2015, the album would have included between 6 to 10 songs, and while some of the songs from So Help Me God will later be released on The Life of Pablo, like Wolves, Father Stretch My Hands Part 1, Highlights, and some others, the entirety of the project is still lost. Swish. If you couldn't tell, The Life of Pablo went through tons of changes and different names, and this is no different. Kanye shared only 1 track list for the album in February 2016, showing recognizable tracks on the album that would later be used in The Life of Pablo, along with a different name for Famous called Nina Chop. The album would once again go through a different name titled Waves within just a month of the album's release. Because of how quick this change was, with very little time, almost no new songs were recorded for Waves, but some people speculated that the song I Love Kanye was supposedly recorded during this time. The tracklist revealed by Kanye for the album showed that Waves would have been split into 3 acts, but other than that, it was basically just The Life of Pablo, but under a different name. TurboGrafx 16. After finally releasing The Life of Pablo after tons of changes, Kanye announced he will be creating a new album titled TurboGrafx 16, named after a video game console Kanye used to play as a kid. The album is pretty mysterious with its history. The album would have been produced by Mike Dean, Keon Christ, and Pete Rock, with possible features from Drake, Young Thug, and Future, as well as upcoming hip-hop artists at the time like The Migos and Lil Yachty. Pete Rock revealed a list of Wii games that might have served as samples or inspiration for the album. One of the most notable is New Super Mario Bros., Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Sonic Colors, and a surprise for me, Rabbids Go Home, which is my childhood game and, in my totally unbiased opinion, the best game ever. Keon Christ revealed that the tracklist for the album existed at some point, but it was never revealed, and it's unknown how many songs it would have had, but some songs from the album were revealed, like Damn Come On featuring Kid Cudi, and another song titled No Reason featuring Justin Bieber and Post Malone. The album was set to release in summer of 2016, however, the release was delayed when Kanye was admitted to the UCLA Medical Hospital on November 11th and was likely scrapped after Kanye was released. Love Everyone. After being diagnosed with bipolar disorder and being released from the UCLA Medical Hospital, Kanye would bring his family along to a mountain range he bought in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. This era was dubbed by fans the Wyoming Sessions because of how many songs he executively produced, like Pusha T's Daytona, his collab album with Kid Cudi titled Kids See Ghosts, and more. On April 28, 2018, during the Wyoming Sessions, Kanye shared a screenshot on Twitter showing a conversation where Kanye reveals the album cover, showing a mugshot of Dr. Jane Addams, a surgeon who operated on Donda shortly before her passing, and asked for title ideas, to which the other person replied with Love Everyone. However, there are other names used for the project, like 500 Days in UCLA and Hitler. Yep, just the name Hitler. I'm not even joking. This album is very infamous in the Kanye fanbase for how insane the songs were and the lyrics. One of the most infamous songs on the album was called DJ Khaled's Son, where Kanye just says slurs like gay people, women, and Hispanic people and talks about rape. Also, if you're wondering why the name of the song is DJ Khaled's son, apparently in 2016, DJ Khaled was accused of bringing his son with him for publicity, and in the chorus, Kanye says, "I keep my gun everywhere I go," like DJ Khaled's son. Only 3 singles were released during this era, the first one only being exclusively uploaded on SoundCloud titled Bad Yeezy Season 5, another titled Ye vs. the People, and the final and the most infamous Drake diss, Lift Yourself. A tracklist for the album was leaked in 2022, showing a more complete version, and it's speculated that this was the last Love Everyone era tracklist. However, on May 1st, 2018, Kanye would go on a rant in the TMZ newsroom where he would make very controversial statements, one of the most notable being stating that slavery was a quote choice. This sparked huge backlash on Kanye, which at some point led to Kanye wiping the entire album and starting over. This new album would be titled Ye, releasing on June 1st, 2018. Yandhi. This album is probably the most well-known unreleased album, in my opinion. Production of the album supposedly began during production of another album, a collaboration with Chance the Rapper that's also unreleased. When Kanye heard the beat for Hurricane, later used in Donda, it was inspired to create his own album titled Yandhi, and created multiple songs for the album in September 2018. Hype for the album would first begin on September 27, 2018, when Kanye revealed the album cover for Yandhi, similar to Yeezus, and announced the album would be released on September 29th. Kanye would perform on SNL as a music guest on the day it was supposed to be released. However, it was delayed, and just a day later, Universal Music Publishing would post a now deleted tweet revealing that the project would have had 8 tracks. On October 1st, Kim Kardashian revealed the album release date was November 23rd, but Kanye would later state the album wasn't finished yet. Kanye would eventually move to Uganda to continue work on the album in October, but when he returned back in November, he announced the album was delayed indefinitely. After Yandhi was scrapped, Kanye and Timbaland reworked the album and created quote more healing music, and Kanye would go through a dramatic conversion, transforming into a born-again Christian in early 2019. Because of this, Yandhi would eventually transform into Jesus is King, which contained 3 songs from Yandhi: Chakras, which was turned into Stella, The Storm, which was turned into Everything We Need, and Law of Attraction, which was turned into Use This Gospel. Recently, this year, some streams occurred where talks of Yandhi releasing came up, with Kanye saying quote, "We gotta release Yandhi," just a month ago. However, nothing else has ever come out of this. God's Country. After the release of Jesus is King in 2019, Kanye immediately began working on a new album called God's Country, and according to leakers, Kanye supposedly recorded over 100 songs just 10 days after releasing Jesus is King. Around this time, Kanye was working on another album called Jesus is King 2, a collaboration album with Dr. Dre, which was also never released. According to cinematographer Arthur Jaffa, they were working on a music video for a song on the album called Wash Us in the Blood, which was released as the lead single for the album on June 30th, 2019, featuring Travis Scott. However, on July 21st, 2020, Kanye would announce that the album would be renamed to Donda, and while most of the songs made from God's Country would be later added to Donda, all the songs from this era are still lost. Donda with Child. During production of Donda, the album went through quite a bit of changes. One of these versions was dubbed by the community Spirits Over the Horizon, but the one we'll be talking about is an even earlier version titled Donda with Child. Concepts from God's Country was brought over to this album after Kanye wanted to create an album dedicated to his late mother, featuring social, political, and religious themes, and even a visual album film was created around the time, directed by Vanessa B. Kraft. The album was announced in summer of 2020 and was meant to be released on July 24th, but of course, this never happened, and the album would be postponed at some point until March of 2021, when Sci-Hi the Prince would announce that the album would continue work with a completely different change. This era of Donda would be dubbed by fans as Donda Pio Pico Sessions, Green Tiles, Gallery Sessions, with the unconfirmed name by some, Spirit Over the Horizon. The album would have a very different sound to the final album, Donda, with experimental music, and the sessions included collaborators like Playboi Carti, Pusha T, Kid Cudi, Future, and Travis Scott. Some songs from the session would later be used in Donda, like Jail, New Again, and a freestyle for Come to Life. A lot of songs from the session were mostly mumble references for Kanye over a bunch of beats. A bunch of these mumble tracks would be leaked. YEBU. On February 23rd, 2022, Kanye released a sequel to Donda titled Donda 2 onto the Stem Player, a music device with the ability to isolate, adjust, and loops to physics stems from songs, but wasn't released digitally until April 29th, 2025. After the release of Donda 2, Kanye began work on a collaboration album with James Blake and No ID titled War. However, this wouldn't last very long, when on October 3rd, 2022, Kanye would be seen wearing a shirt with the words White Lives Matter, and on December 1st would appear on the Alex Jones podcast and would say this. Of course, the internet would go crazy about this, and rightfully so. James Blake would eventually cancel the album with Kanye. 6 days after this incident, Kanye would release a song onto the Alex Jones Infowars website titled Someday We'll All Be Free, and went quiet for a while. Fans speculate that during his silence from the internet, he was creating his solo album, YEBU. The title for the album was unknown for over a year since the album began production. Multiple theorized names came around, like Change, Man Across the Sea, and Yeezus, but it would be first claimed that the name of the album was Y3 in February by producer Eric Sermon, but Kanye would disprove that no such album was even being made in the first place. In July, according to an insider, Lewitt, they confirmed that Y3 did exist despite Kanye's claims, and claimed the reason why the album was titled Y3 was because it was Kanye's third album under the name Ye. In October, after a group buy, Lewitt revealed that the title is actually named YEBU because Kanye apparently wanted the album to sound like a conversation at Nobu, accompanied by Robert De Niro. Supposedly, Kanye was inviting artists to his hotel room in Los Angeles to record music for the album. 2 artists that were speculated to have worked with Kanye were Fivio Foreign and Lil Durk, from Instagram posts mentioning staying at a hotel where Kanye was also staying at. In May 2023, locations were changed to Kanye's Melrose building, where artists Lifeless Garments and Roland Thrax were spotted, and producers Digital Nas, Dinah Ayada, and 88 Keys were also seen there. Progression for the album was slowed down in June 2023 when Kanye and Ty Dolla $ign would meet up to help make his album titled at the time Beach House 4, now named Tycoon, and they both would eventually agree to create a collaborative album, and YEBU would eventually be scrapped. Although the album would be scrapped, songs created from the YEBU sessions would eventually be used in Vultures 1, like Hood Rat, Paperwork, and Problematic, and River would be used in Vultures 2. CUCK. This one hurts to talk about. How do you go from graduation to this? On March 6th of this year, Kanye would tweet claiming his new sound would be called anti-Semitic, and his next album would use this anti-Semitic sound. 10 days later, on March 16th, Kanye would post a red swastika claiming it to be his new album cover. Bro, I can't do this anymore! On April 2nd, DJ Academics would announce Kanye's new album titled World War III, along with a track list for the album, which is, interesting to say the least. 4 days later, on April 6th, Kanye would show up on a Digital Nas livestream and preview a song from the album called This, which I'm just gonna abbreviate it as HH. On the same day, the cover of the album would be revealed, showing a man and a woman wearing clan robes. The picture was taken by Norwegian artist Vegard Tindholt Aas back in 2015 and claims Kanye never asked him for permission to use the picture. On April 21st, a music video for a song called Cousins will be released on Kanye's Twitter account. In case you're wondering, the song is about Kanye confessing to showing his cousin magazines and reenacting them by giving his cousin head. After the release of this music video, Kanye would announce that the album's title would be changed to CUCK. On May 18th, the entire album would be leaked after a group buy, and the organizers behind the leak claimed all proceedings from the group buy would be donated to the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. The album leak was a form of protest containing derogatory messages towards Kanye within its metadata, listing Dave Blunt, who helped with the creation of the album, as the artist for the album instead of Kanye, listing AI in 1945 as the genre for the album, and replaced the cover of the album showing Kanye wearing a shirt that says "Say No to Nazis, New America," with text that reads Nazis and 50-year-old loser promoting fascism and hate speech. I don't know about you guys, but I fully support this and I want to see more of this. According to Sneeko, an executive producer for the album, for some reason, they claimed the leak is an older version and wasn't even close to being finished, and Ye's company, Yeezy, was sending DMCA strikes to people uploading the leaks. On May 22nd, Kanye would announce that he's done with after a FaceTime call with his children. Every single released from the album, like World War III, The Symphony, and HH, were all taken down and later re-uploaded, censoring Nazi, swastika, Hitler, anti-Semitic, and some other words. It's unknown what the current status of the album is, but it's most likely that the album has been scrapped and changed to something else after Kanye suddenly had a change of heart, or he might go back to being anti-Semitic and start praising Hitler for some reason.
Update. Kanye announced that the new name for the album is called In a Perfect World. It looks like the album is still in the works and isn't cancelled, but knowing Kanye, this most likely isn't ever being released.
Now, we're done with all of Kanye's scrapped albums, excluding his collab albums, which he has a lot more of. But now we're going to move on from albums and start talking about other lost media relating to Kanye West. Kanye Runaway Q&A. On October 23rd, 2010, following the release of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Kanye released a film for his album called Runaway. Following this release, Sway would interview Kanye live on MTV, asking questions from fans on Twitter who used a hashtag #AskKanye. The interview was mostly Kanye talking about the film, his new upcoming album at the time, Watch the Throne, joking about devil worship and Illuminati rumors, stating that Michael Jackson is greater than Jesus Christ, and calling out MTV during the interview for not doing their job right. One of the most notable moments during the interview is a GIF showing Kanye laughing, then immediately goes to a blank expression. MTV never uploaded the full interview onto their website, but instead posted short clips from the interview, which would later be removed from the site. Despite people re-uploading the livestream, Viacom would take them down due to copyright. The full livestream is still lost. Lift Yourself original lyrics. We talked about Lift Yourself briefly earlier, but did you know the lyrics for the song aren't the original? The original song was made during the Love Everyone era, back in 2018, with a rough mumble freestyle on the beat. The beat caught the attention of Drake, who wanted to buy it for $3 million. That's way too much. However, the deal never went through, and Kanye decided to troll Drake by releasing the beat with Kanye rapping about poopity scoop. However, according to Good Music president Pusha T, they claimed that Kanye recorded actual lyrics to the beat and planned to release it on his upcoming album at the time titled Ye, but this never happened, and despite a group buy that was supposed to take place for the original song, and Virgil Abloh, a good friend of Kanye at the time, posting a vinyl for the song with a runtime of 6 minutes, the full song is still lost. Kanye West 60 Minutes. During Kanye's rise in popularity back in the early 2000s, Kanye would appear on a 60-minute episode with Bob Simon to talk about his music career. The interview is mostly about Kanye talking about his difficulty with promoting his popular song at the time, Jesus Walks, along with the industry treating him differently. Apparently, at one point, the entire interview was up on YouTube but was removed, and only now, a couple clips only exist from the interview, including Kanye creating a beat called a Dope Beat, which would be iconic for Kanye's confidence in his music. Alligator Boots. If you've watched my 50 Lost Media video, you might recognize this name, which, by the way, thank you everyone for the support on the video, but for those who haven't seen it, I'll explain it. Alligator Boots was a scrapped puppet live show created by Kanye West back in 2008, inspired by Crank Yankers, another puppet show. Comedy Central initially gave the crew $1 million to create the pilot episode. However, Comedy Central never picked up the show, and thus it was cancelled. The pilot is marked as the first time Kanye and Kim Kardashian would meet and get close, eventually getting married and having children. The only reason people knew the pilot existed was because of a documentary that was made on the show in 2009 showing behind the scenes for the pilot and even showed completed scenes from the pilot. However, the full pilot would stay lost until October 16th, 2024, when a Discord server dedicated to leaking Kanye-related media, EasyCord, released the pilot in its entirety onto YouTube. Robocop music video. In 2008, Kanye would release his fourth album, 808s and Heartbreak, after his mother's death and his breakup with his fiancée at the time, Alex Fiverr. The seventh song on the album is titled Robocop, inspired by a movie of the same name in 1987. A stop-motion music video was created for the song, featuring Kanye West and Amber Rose, an American model, but was never released. Other than a couple of snippets of the video were uploaded, the full video was lost until October 9th, 2024, when a user Punk City 1978 released the music video in its entirety with no explanation on how they obtained it in the first place. A Little Inappropriate. This is yet another Kanye West show that's been cancelled, but this existed years before Alligator Boots. In January 2007, HBO announced a show titled A Little Inappropriate, created by Larry Charles, best known for creating Borat and starring Kanye West. The show was described as being very similar to another show called Curb Your Enthusiasm, with mostly improvised lines and shot with a single camera. Kanye first met with NBC and proposed the idea of creating a television series, but nothing came out of it until HBO put Kanye in contact with Larry Charles to create the show. Larry was given $400,000 by HBO to shoot the pilot within 5 days. The pilot was originally 60 minutes in total, but was cut down to 30 minutes after removing interviews that came in every now and then during the pilot. However, the project was eventually shelved because, according to Larry, he believed it was because the project was too hardcore for HBO. Throughout the years, a couple of clips from the pilot would be leaked, and the full pilot was even screened by Wyatt Cenac, who was also part of it, at his stand-up show in 2013, giving his commentary on the project. However, this wasn't announced because HBO never gave Wyatt permission to screen the pilot. On June 18th, 2023, a Reddit user, Sam Vision, would discover that the entire pilot was accidentally made public on Larry Charles' Vimeo page. It would later be made private, but it was too late as the pilot would be mirrored and is now available to watch. Green Eggs and Ham. Have you ever thought about what Kanye's first ever recorded song is? Well, apparently it's about Green Eggs and Ham, the book by Dr. Seuss. At around the age of 12 or 13, Kanye begged his mother to record a song, so his mother paid $25 for studio time so that he can record a song. According to producer No ID, he described the song as super early 90s hip-hop and wasn't good. He gave Kanye some advice, and the two would eventually work together in the future and create Kanye's iconic albums like 808s and Heartbreak and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. In 2004, ABC 7 News would interview Kanye about his first ever song, but it would go unnoticed until 2023 when the interview was uploaded onto r/Kanye by Rhythmic Reason, the same person who created the Kanye West Iceberg videos about 4 years ago. As of now, the recording is still lost, and it's extremely unlikely that the recording would ever be found. Cruel Summer Movie. In 2012, Kanye made a short film for a compilation album he was making at the time titled Cruel Summer, which would later be scrapped. This movie, also titled Cruel Summer, is about Rafi, who is played by Kid Cudi, who falls in love with a blind Arabian princess, but must complete a series of challenges given to him by her father to prove his loyalty. The movie was filmed in Qatar with Sarah A as a female lead, along with members of Good Music playing minor roles in the movie. The film was only premiered once at the Cannes Film Festival inside a custom-made pyramid that had 7 screens surrounding the audience. It's very unlikely Kanye would release this short film, knowing that Kanye has since moved on from other projects, and the only footage of this film existing is a phone recording showing almost the entire film except missing a couple scenes. Only one game. Did you know that Kanye at one point was making a game? I didn't know either. Apparently, this game first started production back in 2014, dedicated to his late mother, and was described as an endless runner where we play as Donda, ascending to heaven. The game was developed by Encyclopedia Pictura, and a teaser trailer was shown at a Yeezy fashion show in 2015, along with another trailer shown at E3 almost a year later. According to Reggie, the former president of Nintendo, Kanye approached him and asked to work with Nintendo and showed him the game. However, Reggie declined Kanye's offer because Nintendo had a lot of projects at the time. The game began to slow down in production, and eventually in 2016, Business Insider claimed that the game stopped production altogether sometime in summer 2016. It's unknown why the game is cancelled, but it's believed the game is going through development hell, where the development team became smaller and smaller. Only prototype builds of the game are known to exist, but nothing has been leaked or released online.